Hello, Professor Clark. My name is Ron Singleton, and this is my project presentation. I chose to do my project on savings and loans. Savings and loans are called community savings banks. They're also called federal savings bank, and they also go by the name of thrifts. I want to talk about the nature of the savings and loan industry. We'll talk about products and services offered by that type of bank, and then we'll discuss who the primary customers are. First, about a little history. Savings and loan banks, the S and the L, savings and loan, is exactly what the words say they are. Back in the 1800s, I learned that it was hard for the average family to buy a house or maybe a farm. So what they would do is they would pool their money together. They would save, and then when they would loan the money out, and then when people would pay it back with interest, they could loan money out to a different family. So it had origins back to community or serving a particular community. And so the S&L, the saving and loan, they did just that. They saved the money and they loaned it out, and that was the main focus. Um, a savings and loan basically is a type of saving bank that focuses on residential loans and collecting money, as I said a second ago. There are basically two types of S&Ls. There's a mutual savings and loan, and then there's the stock savings and loans. The big difference between the two is the mutual savings and loan, they're owned by the customers and they're nonprofit, and the stock savings and loans are owned by shareholders and they are for profit. Now, historically, as I said a second ago, only savings accounts and residential mortgages is what those type of banks handled. But nowadays, they kind of morphed into having other services, providing services pretty similar to just a regular commercial banks. So now most savings and loans will do checking accounts. They might do auto loans. You can invest in CDs and retirement accounts. MMDA are money market deposit accounts and personal loans. So as far as services are concerned, it might be kind of hard to distinguish a modern savings and loans or savings bank between that and the regular commercial bank. The primary customers for S&L are the people in the local community. So that community might be like an urban area, city, so they might focus on maybe we might have one in the city of Cincinnati or maybe even a particular neighborhood. It might be kind of a non-urban or maybe a farm type of community, and so you might have a bank that focus on just farmers. So in the beginning, at least, the main focus were people in the local community. I did research to find the major companies in the industry, and these numbers were just they were a little hard to come by from what I could tell. It said that some of these banks could be owned by a parent company. So like the assets here could be for the parent company, and maybe not for the particular bank if it's a branch of a parent company. So these numbers are as accurate as I can find, but as you'll see, they differ from the financials, maybe for the reason I just said, but I'm not sure why. So from what I found, the Dollar Savings and Loan Bank was the biggest by asset, and then the Centier, Origin Bank, Stride Bank. I think it was Stride Bank of Cleveland, and then First Community Bank. This is a little hard to see. So, but for some of the assets, as I said in the previous slide, some of the information was difficult for me to come by, but these tables here for some of the banks there wasn't any data available, and for certain banks you'll see that some of the financials are negative. If we look at Origin Bank, again, we can compare Origin Bank and compare First Community Bank, and then you'll see here that for both of those banks there was actually the total asset, well, the net profits increased. Well, they increased from 2022 to 2023, and then they started to decrease in 2024 for both those banks. You really can't do that kind of comparison for Stride or Contier or Dollar Bank. But the reason I'm pointing that out is I tried to figure out why the profits, at least for those two banks, they kind of started out relatively high in 2022, peaked in 2023, and then it kind of declined a little bit in 2024. What I found that there was an aggressive rate hike from 2022 by the Fed to 2023, and then they kind of aggressively lowered the Fed rate in from 2023 to 2024. So I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm guessing that may have something to do with the profits that how the profits were affected for at least Origin Bank and First Community Bank. As far as the other three banks, I really don't have anything to comment on because a lot of the information either wasn't available or if it was, um, I didn't know where to look to find it. So we had to review three articles. So my first article was called "Go Vertical: The Urgent New Growth Strategy for Community Banks." And so this article it identified some problems, and then it gave a solution. And the solution, as you'll see, they call vertical banking or niche banking. So the problems that the author highlighted was that there was a community bank crisis. This funding costs, there was a rise in funding costs from 2020 to 2024 from 0.7% up to 2.88%. And what they mean by funding costs, this is the cost or the interest that the bank pays to be able to get the money to loan. And so that went up a great deal between 2020 and 2024. And so that put a big strain on a lot of these banks, I found out. In addition to the strain from the increased funding costs, uh, the banks lost a lot of market share from fintechs and digital banks. A fintech is like a financial company that uses a lot of AI and other type of technology to do financial services. And the digital bank is exactly what the name implies. It's just these are online banks, and they have no brick and mortar buildings. They have very few people working at the bank, and so they can afford to offer really high interest rates compared to a regular savings bank, and their costs are just a lot cheaper. And then what I found is that a lot of those digital banks could offer customers, uh, give an initial offer maybe for opening up an account. They might give them $200 or $500 to open the account, whereas brick and mortar bank or savings and loan would have a much more of a problem doing that. They couldn't match those offers. And so the author, his solution to these two problems were he called vertical banking. And so horizontal banking, or the horizontal model that I think most banks use, is that one size fits all. They have all these different services, and no matter what community they're trying to service, everybody gets offered the same service. Whereas with the vertical banking model, the author suggests that you redefine what we mean by community. So rather than community being a geographical location, community might be some kind of affinity group. So maybe I'm talking about, instead of a geographical location, maybe I'm talking about the community of nurses or the community of farmers. And so his first thought is to redefine what's meant by community, and then you can go digital. A lot of parts of the bank can go digital, and you can offer specific things that are kind of more, I should say, specific services that are more targeted to specific needs of certain groups. So nurses have certain particular needs, farmers have certain particular needs. So the services and products you give them can be tailored to that particular group. The second article I reviewed was it's called "Why Banks Should Stop Chasing Youth and Target Aging Americans." So I see this. I see that banks. I know at UC they have a bank there, and they want to get the college students to open an account. And you have banks all around UC and Xavier who want to get. They basically target the youth, and I get the idea is that once they open an account there and they get used to using the digital products, then they'll kind of stick with them. And I think it's more of a marketing thing. But this article actually has a good point. If you look at the chart here on the left, they break this up into the generations: the silent generation, the baby boomers, and the Gen Xers. And so these are the people. If you look at the blue here, this is the wealth distribution in the United States for these generations of people. And you'll see that the silent generation, they own about 13% of the U.S. wealth, and currently the baby boomers own the most amount at 52, and the Gen Xers 26% of the U.S. wealth. And so basically, these are the people. These are the people with the money. And so the author argues that instead of chasing basically people that don't have money, um, namely the millennials, according to the research I did, they only own about 9.4% of the wealth. So you got the 13, the 52, and the 26% compared to 9.4. So his idea is, why would you want to chase 9.4% when the sum total of the other three generations is where the vast majority of the wealth is? And so some ideas he have here over on the right is that if you offer more services to older or to aging, or you target aging Americans, some of the things that you can do or offer. It says that embrace financial complexity. These are some of the things that aging people are concerned about. They're concerned about estate planning. They're concerned about health care, and they're concerned about intergenerational wealth transfer. And so why not have products that focus on the concerns of the people with the money? These products listed here. Ideas that the author had were to invest in high touch. That is that while digital banking is important, older people tend to want the relationship of a face-to-face banker or bank. Um, Not that digital wouldn't be used by them, but I think the people in that generation, the point was they kind of focus on relationships more than the digital part of it. So you could offer products that will kind of enhance what they call the high touch scenario. Rethinking messages. So a lot of the advertising and marketing is maybe is set up or generated for younger people. And the author, what he mentioned was that maybe you can have something more evenly to where older people could uh, could understand and identify with the messaging from the bank. And then address generational bridges. So one example was maybe offer a product to where a grandparent could open a joint savings account with maybe their grandkid, that kind of a thing. So I enjoyed this one, and I actually learned these the silent generation, the boomers, and Gen X, a little bit about the generations. There was a chart which I'm not showing here that talked about what people in the generation. Sorry about my dog. All right, sorry about the interruption. I had to pause the video, and so now I can try to go back to where I left off. So I think I was talking about that this author talked about addressing generational bridges. So an example of that would be maybe having a joint savings account. Since relationships are important to people like grandparents, you could have a savings account that might be a joint savings account for a grandparent and a child. So and another thing the author talked about was that 52% of wealthy Americans, older Americans, that they lack three basic elements of an estate plan, like the will, um, advanced health care directive, or what they call durable power of attorney. And so the bank could offer products that would enhance or that would help this particular segment of the population with those kind of things. So, and then my final article I reviewed was actually an article on LinkedIn, and it's called Community Banks, and it just lists some challenges and some opportunities that community banks have in 2025. So some of the challenges, and the challenges are in black on the left, and the solutions I've wrote on the right side, and I'll talk about those in just a second. The One of the challenges is the interest rate hike. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, the money that banks have to pay to borrow, um, as that increases, then the spread or the profit that a bank makes is decreased. And so community banks already, they kind of, most of them operate on a shoestring budget, and so the interest rate hike can really have an effect on their bottom line. So that would the cost of funds, and then other challenges would be as we have more digital interactions between people and digital services. There's cybersecurity risks, and there could be fraud. And so the author has some ways or solutions to handle some of these risks. Would be one is for asset liability management. And so um, that would be. I'm sorry.